Hi everyone, welcome back to Studioloo. So I'm here today to get working a little more on the Beatrix Potter journals. So there are 3 in total. I have gone through my considerable library and found quite a good amount of Beatrix Potter related things. So I get to make this lovely little 3-part kind of collection. So the plan here is I want to do 2 larger scrapbooks. So I've gotten a lot of work done on these. Still lots to go, but I'll kind of go through each of the projects for a second here. I've been fussy cutting this morning a little bit from my digital kits, but I just took the papers out of the press. I've worked on these covers, so let me show you the covers, the cover first, the first cover. So remember those brown books from the last video? I had started to hand paint them, and then I sort of felt like I didn't want the striations of the paint to show up, like the brush strokes. I wanted something a little smoother. So instead what I have done is I have spray painted them, airbrushed them. So we have 2 variations on the same kind of color. We have this violet with a bit of yellow, and then we have yellow with a bit of violet. So they're kind of like the opposite of one another, but sort of the same colorway. So this paint is quite lovely. It does glisten a bit. It's quite pretty in the light. I hope you can see that. The spraying, airbrushing, you can use spray paint, you can airbrush, whatever your preferred method of spraying is. Works very nice on the leather embossing because it's not a heavy paint, right? So it retains this beautiful embossing. So then I wanted to work on some nice plates for the front. You saw me do the tracing of that piece of tracing paper, which I think is now somewhere in my recycle bin because I'm done with it. But I took this image out of a Beatrix Potter book, and then I collaged Peter Rabbit here with her to just kind of make that nice link between her and her work. Then I gilded around the edge of it, and then I've put in new big spines. So you see here, these are 2.5-inch spines, and so these are all put together. I had a lovely piece of beautiful fabric that I still need to do some more stuff with. So I used this one on this cover, added some nice blue lace here to just kind of add a little something, and then I poked holes and hand stitched down both sides. So this is the inside. You'll see we've got all of our bookmaker's tape here. This is, what's the name of this fabric? Cheesecloth. So it's actual like bookmaking cheesecloth. So it's the finer, the nice weave. And I turned in the edges of the fabric. So that is cover 1. I'll show you the some of the pages from the signature. So these are going to be 7 signatures. And this is actually from a large piece of beautiful wallpaper with these bunnies. I thought it was a nice way to kind of start this book because, you know, Beatrix Potter was born in London and her childhood was kind of interesting. While her family was wealthy, she spent most of her time as a young child with her nanny in her nursery. And she basically befriended little mice that were in the house, and she had a little menagerie of pets. And then once she was able to, you know, be outside, she always had many animals and really loved animals, had a relationship with animals, which is obviously clear in her whimsical, beautiful drawings. I've added some large pages from one of her books, and basically just kind of use the entire page because they're really beautiful, and they have all these nice little verses, so they're pretty nice for a complete thing on one page, right? And then I did, these are photo paper. I did some alcohol inking, just kind of fun colors. This is from a coloring book, a Beatrix Potter coloring book. I thought this would be a lovely project for whomever may own this to either color or to watercolor. Then just some more plain paper. Again, these will be scrapbooks, so I'm going to be doing little things on them. I have several plans already. This is from a large botanical photography book that's actually about like the meadows of England and I thought it was kind of appropriate because of, you know, the Lake District, and then her later home, the castle, I forget the name of the castle, but I'll be getting into that a little bit more when we talk about her. Then I had these large envelopes that were from like this sort of botanical planner book, and so they're these nice big envelopes, and I'm going to put a few of those in because, again, this is a scrapbook, so, you know, you can do with it what you would like to do. I'll be doing a lot more decorating, obviously, but I just wanted to kind of show you. And then we have Jeremy Frog here. I love the owls, so beautiful. This is yet another piece of wallpaper, and I may actually swap those so that we don't have two wallpapers together. But essentially those are the kind of pages that are in here. I won't go through everything right now, but there's just gorgeous stuff in here. Lots to show you today. So, okay, let's fold this back up. So, signatures, so those go into this one. I also still need to do some sealing. I have to seal this image as well as this one. So this one's a little different. So this is a large picture from her book. And then this is another little cutout of her from a photograph that was black and white. And I have colorized it with watercolors. I still have to seal it. I wanted to just give, I wanted to have her here again to make the connection between her and her work. And I want to just seal it, but I wanted to give her a pop of color. I thought we can't have her being just black and white. So I've done the same thing here. Stitching's a little bit different on this one. So inside's really the same. Outside again was spray painted. This is the one that I had started to hand paint and then changed my mind. This spine we have Peter Rabbit, and then I've done the same thing, lace, this time in this kind of yellowy, kind of amber color, stitched down, and then we did a crisscrossy stitch at the back with two colors on this one. So then the other thing I need to do today, hopefully, is to make a couple more of these. So I've made the end papers for these books. So what I typically like to do in my journals these days is have a pocket at the front, and then on the back I'm just going to add my little Studioloo wax seal, sign and date the book, and keep it plain. But, you know, this is a large book, so I didn't have the perfect end papers. I didn't want to just use like scrapbook paper. I wanted to do something fun. So what I did with these, and I might make the other set today, is I just created the size that I need. I took loads of the little illustrations from all the little books that I have, as well as one of these fun, you know, all the little books begin with these type of pages, right? So they're really good for making a book plate, and I thought about just having a book plate here, but then I realized this is too busy to just stick a book plate on, because then you'll miss out on all these images. So I made a pocket instead with one of those, and I think that's wonderful. That'd be great for, you know, just tucking maybe the things that you want to put into your scrapbook that week. Maybe you're using this for nature journaling or, you know, storytelling. You can stick your materials that you want to work on this week in that pocket. So then I did the same for the back, except no pocket. And what I was thinking is that, yeah, I'll put these in this way, and they'll just be very unique, one-of-a-kind, charming end papers. You know, they're very pretty. So I did use ink, oxide, and coffee to create this colorful background, because I didn't just want it to be white. I also wanted to give it a little weathering and age, but I wanted it to be colorful because, you know, color is important, I think, for these books. Although, interestingly enough, when Beatrix Potter, you know, these stories of these little animals began with Peter Rabbit, or the rabbit letter, essentially. They started as her writing a letter to a sick little boy, and she would draw these bunnies, and she didn't know what to write, so she decided to write a story, because she couldn't think of, you know, just a letter to write that was just kind of, you know, a personal day-to-day letter that would have any meaning. So she instead wrote this rabbit story, and as years passed, you know, finally one of her somebody in her life, I can't recall who at the moment, told her, you know, this would make a good children's book. And so then she began her sort of journey into trying to publish, which was not a short journey. And when she finally did get her publisher, they initially wanted like her story, but she didn't want to do color. She wanted to do her more simple black and white illustrations. That's how she had considered, you know, doing this. But then her publisher said, no, you know, we need to have color imagery if we're going to, you know, proceed with this. So you'll see this is how things begin, right? Just these little black and white illustrations. So then of course she thrilled them with her incredible watercolors. So this is the other set of signatures for this book. Same kind of thing. We have nice large papers, more of those envelopes, all sorts of fun stuff. So we'll be telling a story here. Some of my eco printed papers. I love these big pages. That wallpaper. Yeah, we have lots going on. This one we end with the sort of write-up on her and the nice big image there. So like you'll see all the pages when I do flip throughs eventually, but I just want to give you a little preview of what those look like. So then we get to this one. Where did I put the other one? Oh, here. Okay. I need more space around me. So then this little book, again, I think I mentioned in the first video, I just love this blue with the Beatrix Potter stories. I just think it would be a nice little Beatrix Potter journal. So I ended up I kept the original spine, but it was kind of in some bad shape. So here, hopefully you can see this. Underneath the lace is burlap. You see that texture of burlap? I love that. This was the perfect color of lace to go over this. And so this book provided the challenge to me that I often have, where my sewing machine, I would want to have stitched down, you know, both sides here. It can't fit the depth of this under the sewing machine's arm. So I've developed this method that I use now for when I do want to stitch my books together, where you see how these lines of stitching, they go across. So essentially I lay the book in the sewing machine how it will fit, which is this way, right? It's the arm is going this way. So then I stitch across. I start with a back stitch across, back stitch. Then I leave that thread there and I just pull it over. I don't break the thread, and I again start here, back stitch across, back stitch. Then I take it, lift the needle, take it, go over here again and again and again, all the way down to halfway. And then at halfway, it's struggling again, it can't fit. So snip the thread, turn the book around, do the same here until you meet in the middle. So that's what I did. And you'll see back here, I don't know if you can see under the cheesecloth, but you will see the stitching and those loose threads that are running across there. I don't clip them off on the back, as you don't need to. So then I wanted to cover the title, which was something like Poems of Choice or something. I wanted to cover the title, but I wanted to retain this pretty little, you know, printed bit here. So I took a Victorian floral photography book. I cut it down to size, then I shaped it into an interesting shape. I considered leaving it like a rectangle and adding brads, but I wanted something a little more interesting, so that's what I did. Then I took this Beatrix Potter illustration of this lovely little mouse here with the umbrella of a ginkgo leaf and added that as my focal point. I gilded the edge, and that is our cover. Now this book will have a slightly different feel in that I've used these digitals from a few different shops. And so we're using blue construction paper. I've added some nice floral botanical book pages, some of my cabbage dyed paper and my indigo dyed paper, the coloring book pages. This one's the map of Beatrix Potter's world, some avocado dyed pages, so like calm colors, you know, green. Some this is from the Junk Journal Studio. It's one of the wallpaper pages. So just all sorts of lovely images and things, bits and bobs, right? So this will have a slightly different feel, but it will all live in the same little collection here. And this book has 2, 4, 7 signatures as well. It was a 3 sevens kind of day, 777. So what to do? Okay, I want to do a weird project today with you, and I also would like to maybe size the pages for the end papers for the other book. So here are some things that I want to include in this book, and you are probably looking at this little carrot in bed here. So these are the trays that I work out of when I'm working on journals. I work in a tray like this where I cut my things up and I put them in here. We've got our little fussy cuts and things in here. These are some tags and little pockets that I've not yet folded, little envelopes that I've made, and then TBD. So this is a vintage squeaker toy. Its squeaker is broken. It is kind of, it potentially could have been like a dog toy, but I don't think so. I got it in an antique store. It was with some other squeakers that I got that are from this squeaky company that I kind of collect. And I have this fun little fat quarter of fabric. So what I want to make is actually a journal card of a carrot because Peter Rabbit, but I want to obviously not have it be so 3D. And I want to use this fabric and his little face, and I need to get some green fabric, which I have not too far from me. So let's get weird here, as we often do here at Studioloo. So I'm just going to start by cutting our carrot down, because I think I would only really need that much of it. So just fabric scissors. Okay, and then we'll cut the top off as well, because I don't want to use the top. It's too thick, and that's where the squeaker is, the broken squeaker. So then we'll cut this in half, because all we really want to do is try to retain the face. And also I'm going to go wash this, because so one thing, in case you weren't aware, if you give your children rubber toys like this, especially vintage ones, they get real grimy inside. They can even grow mold. This one thankfully has no mold, but I just want to give it a good clean in case of anything, and then I will be right back. Okay, so now we're nice and clean and sanitized and good. So I'm just going to try to cut this face out in kind of like a ovally, circly kind of shape. Okay, good. Good. Now, let's get a base for this piece we want to make. So you thought you were going on a wonderful adventure. You will, with Beatrix Potter, I promise. But we've got to start things out, you know, in a way that makes sense for me. Cuckoo bananas. So first, let's just get this fabric on here. I'm gonna create like a tag, but it's gonna be a carrot. So we'll grab this fabric. I just need a piece of it. Just kind of measure a little wider, but not too much. Okay, let's get rid of the gluey page. Cut all the excess off. Good. Now, I think what I will do is just trim the corners of the tag. And then we need to turn this into like a carrot tag. So let's just kind of freeform shape this a bit. And we're not looking for like asymmetry. I want this to have a little whimsy, right? So this is a great shape, I think. This is good. Just kind of round a little. Maybe here too, because carrots don't have pointy edges, so that's good. Now, I think I will probably do my stitching. Actually, I'll do the face on there first. I'm pretty sure I just need to stitch this on. No glue's going to hold it because it's going to want to pop up. So I need to stitch it on. So let's just plan to do that. I did grab some scraps of 2 greens to use here for the tag topper, or the carrot topper. So I'll use one of this darker green and then a little bit of this for a lighter green. Again, it just, you know, it looks nice to have a bit of contrast, like a little bit of extra. So this will go together and it will go at the top of the tag like that, and then we'll trim it. So I'm going to go stitch this so we can get this funny little project done. I'm going to basically press this down and stitch around it, and then I'm going to stitch around the whole carrot and stitch that on, and I'll be right back. Alrighty, so stitched on. Now we just got to trim this. I ended up just adding it to some backing, just some paper bag. So we just need to trim the excess here. So that was not hard at all to stitch on my sewing machine. It's a soft rubber. So don't be afraid to do weird things with your sewing machine. Okay. There we go. So here we go. That's a fun little carrot. So I did do a row of regular stitch, but then zigzagged around, and then I'm using blue and purple in my machine for a little contrast, and then I did 2 rows of single stitching around, and then you have this on the back. I think this will be a really cute little like tuck into the front of the book, just as a happy little hello there. I wish I had more of these, but I only have the one. So anyways, that's done. Now let's get the fabric out of here. And speaking of fabric, I've got this. So this is a licensed, like, official Beatrix Potter kind of fabric from 2001 from her original publisher, which is Frederick Warren and Company. So, you know, a really interesting thing, Beatrix Potter had tried to get published. At the time, the Victorian publishing world was pretty booming, but it was also very difficult to kind of get, you know, entry into, especially as a woman. So she had, you know, sent her kind of like, you know, her copy of her story to about 6 different publishers and had heard nothing, or had been rejected. And this is after being rejected in the publishing world, the illustration world, when she had teamed up with a renowned naturalist who was studying one of my favorite things, mushrooms and fungi and slime molds and things like that. And she realized that the texts at the time that documented all of these things, the illustrations, all of it, were actually very incorrect. They were wrong. The mushrooms looked nothing like what the books were depicting. So that's kind of an interesting thing for us, like, to know as, you know, vintage book people and stuff, right? Like, that sometimes when you are getting, just like with history, when you're buying a book that's older, it's not really going to have necessarily factual things in it, right? But I mean, that misinformation is not limited only to old texts, obviously, as we move into a world that's now dealing with the impact of AI on all sorts of things. So That being said, she was, you know, she did not succeed in convincing like a lot of publishers to publish, you know, her incredible art. So she ended up donating it later on to the what is now her trust, essentially the Beatrix Potter Trust. And so it's in the museum in the Lake District, her beloved Lake District that she spent so much of her time and money on later in life as she became essentially a conservationist of the Lake District. She became a very wealthy landowner and a sheep breeder and shepherdess. So all that being said, you know, she tried to go out there and get published, and finally they picked her up at the Frederick Warne and Company publishing company. And as I recall, her suitor, her fiance, who she unfortunately never got to ever spend any time with outside of being, you know, with chaperones. He unfortunately passed away, I believe, at 37 from leukemia, and she learned by letter because they were not living close. I believe he was one of the sons of the Warne family. I can't recall, but then later on, I believe he was either the son or he was someone who was operating in there. We'll probably get to that as I go through and read some things about her with you. So the brother, later on down the line, he ended up being charged with fraud because he had been embezzling money from the Warne Company. And, you know, it was taking, like Beatrix was the, you know, the most important author that they had by that time. And she was making a lot of money for that publisher, but it was also taking her a very long time for her to get her royalty checks, and she was wondering what is taking, you know, so long. And she suspected something was going on, and then eventually he was arrested, and the Warne Company was almost, you know, fully bankrupted by this problem. And so she then ended up writing another book to rescue them from, you know, disaster. She felt that she had to do it because of her her late fiance. So yeah, it's quite a story. And so there's I will link below a really great documentary that's on the History Hit channel, but it's actually from Patricia Routledge and her work. There's a hashtag which I'll include also in this description box that is I believe Potter with Patricia. And so Patricia Routledge, who you may know from the wonderful British comedy Are You Being Served? She is a very iconic English actress. And you know, it's interesting because, like, living in Canada, we have a lot of exposure to British comedy. But you know, there's a whole world, like when you're in North America, there's a whole other world of like fame that goes on in obviously all over the world, but definitely, you know, in Europe, that it's pretty much in parallel with our tastes. But I think in America you don't see so much of it, but in Canada you do, because we are a Commonwealth country and we do have you know, broadcast of those kind of things. But it's really, like, I grew up with so much amazing British comedy, and I'm so thankful for all of that. Even like the soaps, like I watched Coronation Street my whole life, and I'm very thankful for that influence. For some reason I find it extremely comforting. You know, probably just that nostalgia of growing up and your influences, you'll always find them comforting. So anyways, she does a wonderful documentary. She actually played Beatrix Potter in a theater production. So this set her off on kind of a mission to learn all things about Beatrix Potter. And it's so nice because she travels the the museums that have all of her artwork and her early letters with the original little drawings of these bunnies, and she, you know, tells you a lot about Beatrix, and it's nice coming from her wonderful voice. So something to check out. I will link it in the description for sure. So I'm just going through this little piece of fabric, cutting it into useful parts. It was to be probably a baby quilt or something, but we're going to do fun things with it in these books. Okay. And then I think after we do this, I will get into the first page of the book, the Peter Rabbit Decay Compendium book that has all this lovely information. I also was wandering around in my library upstairs looking for other books that I could use, because I know I have multiple copies of all of the Beatrix Potter kind of little books, as well as just a lot of books. And I've got a really nice Beatrix Potter book that I'm not going to cut up. It's more like a art appreciation and kind of history book. I'll show that to you. I'll pick it up for maybe the next video. Okay, so there we go. We've broken down the fabric to its bits. That's good. We'll be able to use those for things like pockets and tags and flips and flops and things. So now let me get the book. I'll also show you another thing that I'm going to be using. So I have this book here to help me in my ways of making ephemera, because I don't want everything to just simply be the illustrations of Beatrix. So this is the book of the British countryside. It's a beautiful book in its own right, but it has lovely illustrations and things. There's also a lot of things about the Lake District and the different wildlife, and, you know, in England in general, just different things. And, you know, Beatrix she did a lot of nature study. She was very, very much into nature study. And obviously here are some sheep here. So she basically championed, you know, I'm trying to recall what variety of sheep it was. I think it might have been the Dorset. I'm trying to recall, but we'll get into that later. You know, and she basically felt finally like she had made it when she was able to buy her farm and realized that she had come from one totally different place in the world and started kind of anew. And, you know, it's almost interesting because where we often talk about a rags to riches story, her story is kind of more of a riches to not really rags, but to commoner kind of life. And, you know, it was funny because one night, it was a dark, rainy night, and she was wandering, like she was walking on the street. I forget where she was, what she was doing, but she was in the area that she had moved to in the Lake District. And the neighbors, you know, all knew of her to be a wealthy landowner and all these things. But, you know, her life was so domestic. She was a shepherdess. She was a farm worker. She was doing all these things. By this time, she had married Willie, and she was no longer really writing much, but she was living a very domestic life. And one night she was walking in the dark rain, and she saw you know, a homeless man, and he came up to her and he said, "Oh, on a night like tonight with the dark and the rain, it's only tramps like you and I that would be out." And she kind of, you know, she kind of had a chuckle as she wandered away, thinking that like that was some kind of validation. I mean, it's strange, but it's, you know, it's something, right? We all have some experience, right, that like changes us, and I think for her it was kind of that, like that sort of thing. I'm going to begin by pulling this book, muscling it out of its cover here. Okay, there we are. And that's just so I can tear the pages easier. Okay, so we have this lovely first page that has these bunnies along the bottom, and I will find some fun way to use that. So we'll get that out of the way. This I will fussy cut. So we'll set that over in the little pile of things to process. These are cute. Little plushies, but I think I'll probably use this side and fussy cut these things. It is much more satisfactory to address a real live child. I often think that was The Secret of the Success of Peter Rabbit. It was written to a child, not made to order. And that's a letter to Mrs. Fruing Warren, September 26, 1905. And of course, those black and white illustrations. And then here we have a stunning image of a young Beatrix with her dog and her little characters here in the background. We'll find something to do with that. Meet Peter Rabbit. In 1893, a young woman with a talent for storytelling wrote a letter about a naughty rabbit and sent it to a child she knew. Her story later became the little book, The Tale of Peter Rabbit. It was an instant and lasting success. So I think we'll deal with this page today. As a start. So, hello, Peter Rabbit. Over 100 years ago, Beatrix Potter created the tale of Peter, the naughty rabbit who disobeys his mother and goes on an adventure in Mr. McGregor's garden. It was her first book, and she wasn't confident about its prospects. I am aware these little books don't last long, even if they're a success, she said to her publisher, but she needn't have worried. Now, you know, it's funny, when she submitted her book to Warren, she actually made her own little book. So she had taken like these papers, and she had bound them herself, very plain, with one of these black and white images on the front, handwritten in the title, and then taken her little drawings that she'd been using in her submissions and pasted them all throughout. She always knew she wanted the book to be a small, handheld little book, and she said, this is how I want the book to be produced. So where they banged heads was about the black and white versus color illustrations, but everything else, you know, she got what she wanted. Now run along and don't get into mischief, says Mrs. Rabbit, but Peter runs straight to Mr. McGregor's garden and squeezes under the gate. A classic, The Tale of Peter Rabbit has been in print since 1902 and translated into over 30 languages. Peter's image appears on everything from baby clothes and china to watering cans and wallpaper. He is one of the best-known children's characters in the world, and this is a china plate with Peter squeezing under the gate and indulging in French beans and radishes. It's a cup and saucer. I do recall having these both in Peter Rabbit and Winnie the Pooh when I was a child, and I think I still have the bowls. Beatrix Potter illustration of Peter in his blue jacket, so iconic. So this is a ceramic figurine of Mrs. Rabbit and Peter. So that is what we are going to work with for right now to make some things. So I think what I would like to do, use this big bunny and use these two images. I think that will be what I go with today. I don't see quotes really that I want to use, or word snippets too much. So let's start breaking this page down. Now I will have lots of these little images because I do also have many of the small books that are full of these little images. I'm championing these larger things because they are going to be great. When you have so many little things, you have to kind of think about the different kind of things that you can make. Okay, so I can also fussy cut this Peter, and this we can dispose of. So let's get into making a few things. So the first thing I think I'm going to do is just back this so I can make it into a tuck. I think it'll be a great tuck in one of the scrapbooks. I'm going to use, oops, turn off my alarm here. Okay. We're supposed to get rain potentially today, and I need to get out because I'm going to try to include some lovely naturey footage in each of these videos if I can. I do mean to shoot more B-roll so I can bring you nice kind of snippets of my own nature study and wandering, because you know I do a lot of that kind of thing, and I know many of you do too, and I think we all kind of enjoy seeing those sort of things. So I will try to get a little more B-roll for this series. So now we're just going to cut out our lovely rabbit here. I've been taking in a lot of Beatrix Potter over the last couple of days. It's also been making me think more about wanting to get back to this YouTube series that I started quite some time ago, which I completely forget the name of somehow. But I was covering different artists, and I left off, I did A and I did B, and I was going to go through the whole alphabet. And I was doing a piece of art in the style of that artist. And I was planning to, and I was using my children as inspiration for the art. And I made a fun stuffed painting of my daughter as a bee, and my son, I did a sculpture of him with his head as a moon. And yeah, I need to get back to that at some point. But journaling, it's eaten up my interest so much. I want to make journals. So yeah, I still need to find that that person who will just keep me employed as a full-time artist forever without having to do jobs, and I could just entertain you guys all day, but it has not happened. The Rockefeller family has not found me. Okay, so yeah, this is so cute. Now, where did I put my carrot? I'll show you what I'm saying, right? Beep. He would be so cute in there. Oh, the things that I enjoy. Maybe not everyone else does, but that's okay. So let's just begin in our first signature here and find a spot where I would want to add a tuck. You know, how about right here on this nice front page? That would be nice. So what I will do with this is, we want this to allow something to be tucked in. So we're going to just glue the bottom here, not all the way. And then we'll come up the side here. This will be the main kind of pockety bit. And then I'm also going to add a little glue along this edge, but then also to both ears. And that will just keep it lying flat. So we'll pop that on there. Okay. Good. So then we have this tuck spot. I feel like I could just use this carrot as my thing to just demonstrate pockets all day for you guys. Okay. Then I need to look for, give me one sec. Where is my, I put that paper. I had a paper, but I don't know where I put it. Oh, here it is. Okay. Other piece of that. Okay, so now we need to figure out what to do with these little bits. So just give me one moment, I'm going to grab something. Okay, so I think I will use these wallpaper scraps as backgrounds for what I want to make here. So let's begin with this one. And just see. Okay. I will use this. For this. And this we'll tear here. Yeah, but there. All right. So we need to glue down a couple of bases. Where did the blue one go? Here it is. Okay. That's a little too wide. I think they're both too wide. Yeah, that won't actually work. So let's use this to glue down this one. Okay. And the nice thing with working with these books is there's lots of good word snippets that you can use as well. So if you're planning to process through Beatrix Potter's little books, just pay attention to the words and stuff too. So let's just straighten this up. And then this one we need to also glue down. Let's use the back of this. I've been going through all of these things lately, like packaging and stuff that I need to process. So I have this like thing at my feet. It's like a banker's box, and it's just full of backing materials, and it is so overstuffed right now. So yeah, we need to get backing things. All right. So now let's plan what we want to do with this. Perhaps a large belly band would be nice. Or I don't know, let's fussy cut this little Peter Rabbit scene here. I've got to think of ways to interestingly introduce them onto like backgrounds. I'm thinking little clusters would be nice. Let me grab something for my scraps. Actually, perhaps some of this, the blue sky at the top here. I'm also like making this big effort to try to use some of my wallpapers and things. I've just got a little too much of it. It all fits in this big basket, but like it all kind of juts out, and I'm just thinking I need a little bit less of it, you know? We don't need all of this wallpaper. Start wallpapering my walls with it. Okay, so let's slide that on here. Then I'll grab a little of this burlap and perhaps a little bit of blue string, embroidery floss, and a little bit of yellow seam binding. So I keep a little bit of scrap everything on the back of my desk here. A little bit of book spine. Okay, perfect. And I'll just start kind of making a bit of a cluster with this. So I'll lift that up so I can stick the burlap in there, as well as the blue thread. Just kind of layer it like that. Then the book spine on the other side, again, just like layer it in there so it juts out just a little bit, like that. Then I'm going to go to the sewing machine, take this with me, and I'm going to add this little bit of fabric here, and I'll stitch right around this because it will give me an interesting focal point for this piece I'm making. Okay, so here we are, we're stitched. I did about 2 rounds around the piece. So now we'll just do some tearing here. Let's tear around the edge. Then I'm going to grab some yellow ink because I like that pop of color that yellow brings in. And we'll just ink the edge with a bit of yellow. I like the soft blues, yellows, purples, greens, brown. This whole colorway is just delightful. So then now we have a more interesting piece to lay on here, right like that. And I think I will keep the bird above. So use art glitter glue to get that nice and sealed down. Probably there would be good, like so. Good. Okay, so then we need to decide where we want to cut this off, and I think I'd like to perhaps cut it off here. So those little birds at the bottom can get used for something else. Just straighten this up here. That's better. And then we can cut the sides by hand. Let's get all that off there. Okay. Very, very cute. I think what I'd like to do with this, now that I look at it, I think it would be a lovely journal card. I'm going to round the corners, and I will stitch around it as well with a bit more of this yellow and book spine at the top. Do that sort of at the end, just add it here, and I think that will be quite pretty. Okay. So let's go in and trim this out. You can make a little tuck with that, or a little tag or something. It'd be cute. Okay. Those over here. Then, you know, you could also cut out this little Peter Rabbit and have it be on here, but again, I don't want to make everything, you know, Beatrix Potter specific, like not every single thing in here. So now we need to do the same kind of thing with this, cut it out. And I just think that these little pictures like this, they really lend themselves nicely to like some layering. So I think I will probably be doing different kinds of layering in this project to just give interest to the little pictures. A little bit of green down here maybe. Probably a little book spine because it's me and I love book spine. So just fun bits of collage here and there, and we'll make this into a tag. And it would be nice to have some kind of a bit of writing on this one. So let's move over all my stuff. So these are the Johnny Town Mouse and Mr. Todd books. I do have quite a little stack here though of these. So here's Peter Rabbit. And it's now run along and don't get into mischief, I am going out. So I'll use that on there. kind of rough the edges a little. Just going to push that paper a little bit forward and make some little kinks and digs in it, and it will look nicer, and we can ink it. Okay. Probably I'm going to use a few little silk leaves or flowers too. That could be fun. I know I have some little bits. Just have to find the right little thing here on my desk. Here it is. Here it is. This little one. Okay, I'm going to stitch just a few stitches right here, and I'll be right back. Okay, so that's been stitched across there. Then I'll just take a little art glitter glue and go around the edge of the top of the image. So we get the rest of this glued down. And then I found this bit of book page that I added gold paint onto from when I was gilding the covers. I'm going to use that as a bit of a background for that to stand on. I have to say, I feel quite spoiled being able to just spend some time making Beatrix Potter inspired art. So let's just glue this down. Just to cover that sort of hard line at the top. Try to save as much of it as we can, but I want it to be on a little bit of an angle. Okay. There we are. Okay. Very, very cute. I feel like this doesn't really need much more. I don't know if it even really needs a tag topper at all. Maybe a little one. I don't know. Nope. Nope, nope. Dig, dig, dig. What do I... Oh, I see something. Yes, yes, yes. It's a little bit of brown. A little bit of brown fabric up at the top with maybe a little blue something or other, like some of this waste that we had from the large fabric panel. Maybe I will make things with the fabric panel in the next video. Yeah, so let's stitch that on. So I will stitch that, and then I will show you what we've made today. Okay, so this has been stitched around. Good, good. And I also fussy cut this little Peter Rabbit out of that one book page. We made this hilarious carrot. We made these two fun little pieces. And I have this little tuck spot and that little Peter Rabbit. So I'm thinking we might as well, we also made this tuck spot, right? So we might as well do something in here now. I do quite like that because the blues are quite pretty, and that would be very cute on here. Yeah, I think that might be good. I don't know. Maybe this isn't the right little pocket for there. It might not be. We need larger pieces. Now, this is where I was planning. I was thinking with this piece, I'd like to put it in this pocket, but I don't know. This may not be big enough. Let's just check against her head. And we would lose the feet and stuff here. The overall book, the size, I think it would fit as a page better, maybe. So I may make either like a tall piece that I will stick on here. Yeah, I think I'll do that. Yeah, I won't try to put it in that envelope. Now what I may also consider is not using that in this book, but instead in the smaller book. So we'll set that aside, and perhaps we can do a pocket and a tuck in here. Could even be a nice little intro piece right here. Because we are talking about Peter Rabbit. Oh, that looks quite cute there. It just needs a little inking, I think. There we are. Yeah, and that would be very cute in there. Perfect. Okay, so we have one piece in this book. That's good. Now, I might as well also use the little Peter Rabbit. So let's go to the back of the signature here. And we will pop him on this blue page, which I intend to just be for writing space, but I do like to kind of add little bits and bobs even on pages for writing space. Just a little something there to make it a cute, interesting page. Okay, so we got a bit of work done, and that's awesome. So that's the progress that I've made for today. I hope you enjoyed doing these little projects with me. I definitely loved, just playing here. So I will talk to you again in the next installment of this Beatrix Potter wander through the Lake District, as I'm calling it. Have a wonderful day. Bye for now.